My name's Nina Christian. I'm a marketer in Melbourne, Australia. I specialise in helping people build powerful and connected brands, mostly organically using content marketing. So for me, that encapsulates three big things. It's high caliber content, it's very powerful branding, and it's the systems that power it all and the marketing that sits behind that. And what worked 2-3 years ago is not working now. Heck, even what was working this time last year has been upended. And so I really like to see myself as a professional synthesizer of information. I love going out there, seeing what's working and distilling that and sharing the best of that to help you with your own content journey and your own brand building, because this is the future of marketing in a very, very big way. So even if you rely on paid marketing to get your products and services out there and to build your brand, more and more content is needing to start a feature front and center and heavy of that. Hence the really big focus on content, the most powerful type of content for getting ROI. And it's one that I'm really passionate about. When we talk about high quality content, there's different types of content. There's entertainment, there's education, and there's interaction. But then there's also a type that's very, very powerful, and it's thought leadership. And that is not necessarily going to be what you think it is. If you've heard me talk about this topic a bit in the past, you might have heard me talk about it because I know how powerful it is. I've experienced that myself. I really just went deep into this last year, and I'll tell you a story about that in just a second. And I have been helping other people in that space, and I'm just seeing the incredible rapid transformation that harnessing these principles can bring. So I'm a big fan, and I'm also really a fan of not just telling you that it works, but why and how, and breaking it down so that you can apply it. So I also want to throw out one caveat. As a marketer, there's another type of content that's super, super powerful that's really gaining in popularity, and that's user-generated content, where you can actually get people talking about you, your brands, your service organically and sharing that. And that is the holy grail of content marketing as well. But obviously that's generally for people who are a little bit further along in their journey, and people who also have probably done the hard yards in the first instance in building their brand and getting their brand to the point where people want to share that. So watch this space around user-generated content, but we are talking very squarely about content that you have the power to do right here, right now. So I want to focus on that because this is hugely actionable. This is things that you can apply and do and practice on right from the get-go. So notice I said practice because nobody is perfect at it right from the beginning. Everybody has to cut their teeth on it. Everybody needs to practice and get better. And heck, look, in full transparency, it's one of the reasons that I'm here doing these live streams, because I'm really comfortable presenting in an online environment. I've been doing that for many years in a face-to-face environment, but live online is a whole new beast. And I teach and train people to do this stuff because it's very powerful. So I don't like to teach what I don't do myself. And there's always an upskilling process that's involved. So I remember the first time that I went live on Facebook a couple of years ago. It was so awful. I think I spent the whole morning just about feeling sick and doing my hair and just trying to do whatever I could to make this video, and then it tanked and someone wrote a really nasty comment and I went and hid, and I didn't do it for a long time after that. So just know that if you feel scared about going on video, especially going live on video, it's completely okay, and there is a learning curve and there is a practice element to it, and there is a big fat delete button up there. So if you go live and you and your mum and your friend and one other person sees it and you don't like it, you can always delete, but you've got better from practicing it. Before we get into why it's so powerful and how you can do it, I just want to dispel the myth that thought leadership is for academics, for professors, for world-class authors, and that you have to have some sort of crazy new idea that nobody has ever heard of before to be a thought leader. Thought leadership, by virtue of the definition, is that a leader has followers, so somebody is following your thoughts. So thought leadership, you are paving the way by expressing your thoughts in a way that people are buying into and they want to follow. You don't have to be doing some huge expository on some little known thing. The most powerful type of thought leadership is one that can shift a perspective in someone. It can inspire action by somebody. It will help them to see something in a different way, or help them to understand something, or help them to see what's possible. That is amazing thought leadership that is working most effectively at the moment, because people want short, snackable, quick fix content, and they also want their horizons enlarged. They want their perspective shifted. They want to be moved closer to that end goal that they are desiring to reach. So whether that's building a brand online, whether that's launching that side hustle or startup, or whether it's taking all of their knowledge and expertise and packaging that up in a way that can help other people, or whether it's building that not-for-profit, or whatever it is, there is something that about thought leadership that is going to help you get that message out into the world. And rather than just showing up and actually talking about it, when you go that first level deeper and always seek to think about how can what I say transform someone's perspective, or how can it inspire them to action, or how can it help them see something in a different way. So that is essentially what thought leadership is, and it can be expressed in so many different ways. It can be expressed written, audio, video, in social media, it doesn't have to be an ebook. It can be an image, it can be a post. The bottom line is, what transformation can this thought leadership effect? I've spoken to you about what thought leadership is, why it's so important, how it's not just for world-renowned authors and academics and renowned business leaders and speakers. It's accessible to anybody, because if you have thoughts that can help people, if you have ideas, if you have concepts that can help people get further along whatever journey they're wanting to get to, then that is a valid reason for you to step up and think about how you can demonstrate thought leadership. I've actually said the fact that people want quick wins these days versus lengthy 50, 60 page full ebooks to get a concept, people would much rather get that in a 2-minute read, and the shorter the better. So in some senses that can be more challenging, because it takes a lot more practice to be able to express powerful ideas very succinctly versus long. But the other point, it can be then just start with where you're at, start with short, and improve the quality as you go along. The reason that thought leadership is so powerful, which is I want to bring it back to the ROI now. So we needed to first understand what it is before we talk about the ROI on it. So this is where it gets really interesting, and this is where commercially it makes sense, okay? Because you can go and pay for ads, you can go and buy a billboard or put your stuff on TV doing ads, but if you're not connecting with people, if you're not building that credibility, they can see your ad, but there's going to be a way longer process of them going through the typical client journey that someone needs to go through with a brand to develop that know, like, and trust factor. So whereas one of the things with that thought leadership will do, it's like this all-in-one that will quickly foster the know, like, trust factor. So when we're talking about know, it will generate awareness. People know you exist and they know pretty much what you're about, what space you're in. It will also foster connection when it's done well, and you can package your thought leadership strategically by use of visual elements and brand, and supported by connection content in a way that people will connect with you as the deliverer of the thought leadership, and build that affinity and approachability, which is really so important in our modern day context. Because if I was presenting to you about thought leadership and it was very just one way and throwing it at you, and you did not, I didn't do things like show you my human side and why I know this and how I learned it, and maybe different things that make me more human and approachable, you might think, oh, well, that's all well and good for them, but it's not for me. And so weaving that into your thought leadership demonstrates that you know what you're talking about, but also it makes it approachable and it makes you relevant, which means someone is more likely to engage with you, which is ultimately, for most people, the purpose of why you're doing that in the first place. And then the third thing, which so many people really crave and in many respects need in order to make their content and business successful, is around credibility. So you can call it authority, market authority, respect. If you know someone and you like someone but you don't trust them, you're going to be very reluctant to actually do business with them. And this is the power of thought leadership, because you can show, not tell, the things around your expertise in an area and build your authority and build your credibility very, very quickly. So I see a lot of people doing each of those three things, trying to build awareness or trying to build connection, just using like 365 prompts or stories or questions or something like that. And yeah, connection, there's a place for it. But if you're just building that, you don't have a platform to really make content work for you commercially. Or I see people going out just doing the authority piece, just trying to get on the news and PR and media and all of that. And that will build your authority, which is great. But then you actually have to build that bridge of connection to the individuals as well. And then obviously people need to know what you're about, which is that awareness piece. So thought leadership, when you do it well, and it doesn't have to be complicated. Now I'm going to bring it into the dollars and actually talk about why this matters. I want to tell you a story, how I came to know this. A little while ago, I was preparing for a big launch, and I realized that the content was not as on point and structured and free-flowing as it needed to be. In fact, actually, I was mostly stuck not with the what, but with the systems of how to build a powerful content engine, mostly for an individual brand. For your average person, I mean, it's all well and good to do it as a marketing agency for clients where there are teams and processes and big budgets and all of that, that's fine. But how to actually do that and do it effectively for a small brand was something that I was looking at. And I went really deep. In fact, I actually shelved the launch because I was like, okay, I don't want to go ahead with that if this content is not going to be paving the way in a way that I wanted it to. And nor did I want to put scattergun stuff out approach. I wanted to make sure that I had nailed the systems behind that to really make sure it was going to have way more reach and just do it with ease and things like that. I got to the point where I was done with feeling frustrated about content, and I was like, there has to be a better way. So I literally shelved the launch and spent 3 months working this out. And this is where I bring a lot of the systems piece into the content and thought leadership, and why it's a really major chunk of even my program, the Thought Leadership Accelerator. This is awesome. I mean, we talk about the high caliber content, the branding, but the systems. And this is a part that I had to go away and nail and learn. And as I was going into these systems really, really deep, I stumbled across and I started to get fascinated with this whole concept of thought leadership. And it was an article by Forbes magazine that really triggered that as well, when I saw that Forbes was citing thought leadership as the new and fastest growing marketing discipline. And now, that's not to say thought leadership is new. It's been around since forever. I mean, we know all thought leaders that are not just hundreds but many thousands of years old. That thought leadership is not new, but the way it's unfolding is quite new and quite different. And the weaving that into the way a brand engages with people and the weaving of the human side. We've got marketing geniuses like Philip Kotler, the father of modern marketing, who brought the 4 Ps of marketing, saying brands need to be more human. They need to be more authentic. On the one hand, we've got this need for brands to be human and authentic, but on the other hand, we've got the need to actually bring people into our world using content. And a couple of years ago, putting out information that was, I guess, useful and ticked the boxes and SEO friendly and gave some sort of checklist or whatever was enough to get attention. But with so much content out there in the marketplace at the moment now, what was working a year or 2 ago isn't working anymore because people just glaze over it. 10 things to get fit. Like, you know it. It's got to be something else that's going to capture your attention, capture your mind, or capture your heart. And that's where the power of thought leadership comes in. And the evidence, I looked into some studies around this, and one of the biggest studies was done by Edelman PR around thought leadership with over 1,000 businesses, was when it came to businesses actually pulling out their wallets to spend money, thought leadership was one of the biggest factors. So just to backtrack a little bit, 75% of people, according to this study, would follow a brand based on their thought leadership. So this is an organization or a person or someone who is showing up and doing something in the marketplace, bringing something. 75% of people follow them because of their thought leadership, not because of their cool graphics, not because of their interactivity, not because of their customer stories. 75% follow because of their thought leadership. Now, where it gets particularly interesting from a commercial perspective is that 61% of a very large number of businesses who were surveyed in this very reputable survey by Edelman PR said that 61% said they would pay a premium based on good thought leadership. So get that, same product, same service, same company, one brand has good thought leadership and the other one doesn't. 61% said they would pay higher prices. And then just to round that out with one more very powerful statistic that shows the impact of thought leadership on a bottom line, and the thing that will flick the switch that will basically encourage someone to do business with you, 58% said that they will award their business based on thought leadership. So there's a very large 3/4 of the people who would follow you if you are doing thought leadership. So think about, if you're not doing thought leadership at the moment in some shape or form, of the people that may follow you that aren't currently. Secondly, more than half of those people that currently follow you are likely to do business with you based on good thought leadership. And then on top of that, nearly 2/3 will actually pay more based on the level of your thought leadership. So those are pretty interesting and compelling statistics. And so I'm sure that right now, by this time, I probably convinced you of the value of thought leadership. But I also just wanted to share a couple of things around the need to make sure that it's high quality, because there is a fine line, as I mentioned, in terms of putting out content and not just mediocre stuff. And depending where you are on your business journey, this is not a one size fits all. If you're very established in your business journey, your approach is going to be different to someone who is just starting out. And I know that there are some people just starting out. And for you, the point is to just get started and practice. Initially, there's not going to be that many. You're not having hundreds of thousands of people watch you initially, so you will cut your teeth and get better. But when it comes especially to brands that have a name, or that are emerging, or that are trying to get onto the scene, or people who are more established professionally. And I just wanted to encourage you through this broadcast to open your mind to the fact that thought leadership is a thing, that it's an integral part of content marketing. If you're not doing it and don't have a plan in place to start doing it, you're missing out, you're leaving money on the table. And what's more, as people start to figure this out, I think this is really quite new, and the way that I'm packaging up and sharing it is quite new to a lot of people and in cutting edge. But I really guarantee you that in another year, this will be everywhere, and the caliber of content generally will rise exponentially. So it's really your opportunity to get in on the ground floor, to practice and improve in that area, because if you wait until you're perfect, you're never going to start. And meanwhile, other people will be out there practicing and improving, and other brands will take that space and you will miss out. So there is an element of, you just need to practice at it, and you just need to not just practice by doing the same thing over and over and over and not caring about whether it's hitting the mark. Practice, observe, tweak, optimize, listen, then go away and do it again and do the same. Measure, test, tweak, optimize, improve, take feedback, be willing to experiment and see things that don't work not as failures, because if you are going to go on this journey, you are going to do things that won't work. Happens to me. Every week I try new things. Some of them work, some of them don't. But not to see those things as failure, but to see those things as you now have more data to work with. So you now have information at your disposal on which you can base decisions that you didn't have before. And I think I've passionately showed you why I believe so much in the power of thought leadership and how it's inextricably linked to commercial outcomes. So if you found this broadcast useful, if you liked it and know of someone else that would find it useful, please share it. That would be awesome. So thank you very much for tuning in. I really appreciate it. All the best. Bye, everyone.